Hi, Stephen from Owner Disown. Now, some of you may not know much about Eluktronics. They are a boutique manufacturer of laptops located in Delaware. They offer laptops for businesses, for entertainment, and of course for gaming. Now, each one can have their hardware customized to your liking. And they also offer replacing services and up to a 3-year warranty. Their laptops are also available on Amazon, and even though you can configure the amount of RAM, the amount of storage and what video card you want, you will just have stock thermal paste. They have been in business actually for about 8 years and also sell desktops and gaming accessories such as gaming mice and mouse mats. Now, they sent me the Mech 17 G1R to review. It has the 9th gen 6-core 9758 CPU, it has 32GB of RAM in dual channel, 256GB SSD, an RTX 2060 graphics card and a 144Hz 1080p IPS display. For $1,500 you can get the RTX 2060 or $1,600 the RTX 2070 Max Q, both with 512GB of SSD storage. The lid is brushed aluminium anodized black with a subtle Eluktronics logo in the center. Now, this does not light up and there are no colored accents anywhere, so this laptop should suit either a student or business user alike. The BOE panel is sharp and bright, and it has good color accuracy of 96% of sRGB, and it has 325 nits at 100% brightness. There's little flex and the hinge is nice and stiff. The camera did pick up some PWM flicker though. Its side bezels are only 6mm wide, which makes it look nice, and the webcam is located up top. Here's the webcam, 720p webcam, and actually I think it looks fairly decent. And the keys when you're typing, you can probably hear them slightly. Anyway, it's not too bad. There's also a Windows Hello camera, which I think is pretty handy, and it's great at this price point. As for ghosting, the 144Hz panel performed on par with the Helios 300 I just reviewed. The only bling it has is the RGB light bar at the front, which you can turn off or adjust to the color you want, and the RGB keyboard. This also can be configured using software to change the color or patterns. The lighting is not super bright, but it works well in subdued lighting. The keyboard deck is made out of aluminium with a soft touch rubber coating that feels nice, but it does show fingerprints. The Windows Precision Trackpad is actually made of plastic and it is very large, and the gestures work really well. In case you accidentally press it, you can disable it by double pressing the top left corner. The mechanical keyboard is nice and spacious with hexagon shaped keys. They use brown switches, which are not as clicky as the blue switches. You get a good distance of travel and good tactile feedback. I actually do prefer it over a traditional membrane laptop keyboard. You do have a separate number pad with a full-size enter key and full-size arrow keys. And to the right you have the power button and a second button that actually switches between office, gaming and turbo modes. On the right you have the GPU heatsink, you have 2 USB 3 Type A ports, an SD card reader, which leaves actually quite a bit sticking out when you have the SD card inserted. Now on the left you have the CPU heat exhaust, the Ethernet jack, USB 2 port and separate mic and headphone jacks. Now, it's also good to see that we have some ports around the back. You actually have 2 mini display ports, 1.4, HDMI 2.0, USB 3.1 Type-C, now there's no Thunderbolt 3 here, and the power connector. The back cover is made of ABS plastic, which is quite scratch resistant. It has big air intakes, which is great, and you remove some Phillips head screws to remove it. Now, I do like they've got big feet here at the back, which does allow more air to be feeding into those air intakes. Now, mine has a 62 watt-hour battery, and since it uses Optimus, I was able to get 4 hours 10 minutes of streaming YouTube at 25% brightness. But you can opt for a 3-cell 47 watt-hour battery, which then includes a hard drive mounting kit if you need more storage. The 2 stereo speakers face downwards at the front edges, and it is good to see that actually we do have a subwoofer too. You do have 2 PCI Express M.2 slots, so storage options are good. And here is the Intel 9560 Wi-Fi card. There are 2 RAM slots allowing you to max out at 64GB. You have the GPU and the CPU here with 2 shared heat pipes. The CPU has 1 dedicated heat pipe whilst the GPU has 2, all being fed to 4 heatsinks. Now, its gaming center software is very easy to use and it never crashed. In addition to the keyboard and touch bar lighting, you can alter the fan speed and choose the power profile. In standard or eco mode, you can adjust the fan speed to one of 3 settings. At idle, it is silent at 33 decibels, and under a combined CPU and GPU load with either the silent fan or the middle fan, the GPU clocks at 2200 MHz and it is at 45 decibels. Gaming mode under load has the CPU running at 3500 MHz, and with the auto fan it runs at 47 decibels. And using the max fan it goes up to 50 decibels. Now the turbo mode is their Eluktroboost option, and again you can either have the auto fan or the max fan running at the same 3500 MHz with 49 to 50 decibels of fan noise. So the max fan is fairly loud, but to be honest it is quieter than many others I've tried. The speakers are average really though, at 74 decibels, but you can use the Sound Blaster software to change the tone or bass, and it does help. Now the chassis temperature is really pretty good. You can clearly see the cool areas on the keyboard because of the air brought in by those two fans. Heat is pushed out nicely through all of the 4 heatsinks, and even underneath it is comfortable to use on your lap. With a nice 17-inch panel it is well suited for creative work, so I did a quick Adobe Premiere Pro 1080p render test. Using the CPU only it did well, actually faster than the Helios 300 with the same CPU and faster than the 8750H. Using the GPU to do the render is the way to go though, slashing the time substantially. Using Cinebench to test the CPU performance, it again does better than the Helios 300 and the outgoing 8750H. But it's their turbo or Eluktroboost mode that brings a huge advantage over the competition. Activating it allows the GPU to boost much higher. Now this is activated via software using a button near the power button. In fact, the average boost clock of the RTX 2060 increased by 318 MHz, and with its max boost going up by an average of 75 MHz. This would suggest that the CPU is now able to hold its boost clock much more than the competition. Even more than the Lenovo Y740's RTX 2070 Max Q, and that pushes 90 watts on occasion. So let's take a look at this, Overwatch, using epic settings. On the left we have gaming mode, and on the right we have turbo mode. The difference in frame rate is huge. You can see the difference in GPU clock rate as well. Now look at that. The difference between gaming mode and turbo is 28%. That actually puts it into a whole different class altogether. The base 2060 is as good as an 80 watt 2070 Max Q here, but activate Eluktroboost and wow, it pummels even the 90 watt 2070 Max Q. We see the same increase in GPU clock rate in Far Cry 5. Here it is in ultra settings. This is with max fans, and this game pushes the system hard. In gaming mode the GPU averages 56 degrees, maxing at 59, and in turbo mode the GPU averages 69 degrees, peaking at 72. But it's the CPU that gets hot. In turbo mode it hits 99 degrees, averaging at 88. Gaming mode sees about 7 to 10 degrees less though. Now looking at the benchmark chart comparison, we see gaming mode just below the 2070 Max Q at 85 FPS. But activate Eluktroboost and with 96 FPS we even surpassed the 2080 Max Q. Even the minimum is about the same as the 1070 Max Q average. Battlefield 5 is another punishing game, and I played it for hours in this footage. The CPU was pulling about 65 to 70 watts, which is very high, and as a result it did run hot. No two ways about it, and max fan could not keep it in check. As a result, extra measures do need to be taken, which I will come to shortly. Now look at the frame rate though. Eluktroboost provides an extra 10%, pushing it easily past the 2070 Max Q. Again, the minimum frame rate matches the average rate of the 1070 Max Q, and that's not bad. How about if you want to run ray tracing? Well, here we have gaming mode on the left and turbo mode on the right, both with no DLSS. The first thing you'll notice, other than the big jump in frame rate once Eluktroboost is turned on, is that the CPU is running cooler as more power is actually switched to the GPU to help it with the extra workload that ray tracing brings. Gaming mode is playable, but let's see what happens when we turn on DLSS. It gives a nice boost, and I really do recommend using it. As you can see from this chart, DLSS provides up to 50% extra performance, pushing it close to what we saw with the turbo mode with no DLSS. Either way, Eluktroboost allows the 2060 Max Q to beat the 80 watt 2070 Max Q by 24%, and even beat the 90 watt part in the Lenovo Y740. I'm sure you will agree with me that this is amazing. So in order to reduce those peak temperatures whilst only using the quieter auto fan, this is what I did. I used throttle stop to set these settings. I couldn't undervolt much, so I settled on 17 millivolts for the core and the cache, but reduced the multiplier slightly. I also overclocked the GPU core by 179 MHz and the memory by 407. So now we have Witcher 3 running on ultra settings. On the left is gaming mode with max fan, in the center is turbo mode with the max fan, and on the right is turbo mode but overclocked with the undervolt, but using auto fan. As we saw in the previous games, turbo mode really bumps up performance by about 10%, but now using the turbo mode with the overclock and undervolt, we see better frames per second with about the same temperature and less fan noise. Look at this chart. I was able to push the RTX 2060 to the same level as my Clevo P8070 with an i7 8700K and a GTX 1080. That is incredible. Switching to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, using highest settings, we have the same format. With it overclocked, the 2060 boosted up to 2055 MHz, and that is about 400 MHz higher than the gaming mode. And as you can see, we see a nice boost in frame rate. Sure, the CPU is a couple of degrees warmer, but remember that this is with the auto fan. So the turboed Eluktroboost increases performance by 15%, pushing it 8% ahead of the 2070 Max-Q. But applying my undervolt and overclock, we are now at the 2080 Max-Q level. So how would I sum up the Mech 17? I am really impressed with its performance. It smokes the 2070 Max-Q and gives the 2080 Max-Q a good run for its money. So it might not be the cheapest 2060 notebook, but it's certainly the fastest. And combine that with a good mechanical keyboard, RGB lighting, fast 144Hz color accurate display, good storage options, I think the Eluktronics has a good winner on their hands here. Now I was hoping for perhaps a little bit more battery life, but still I think 4 hours is manageable, and its subtle styling does mean it can be used in most locations. Now if you want to purchase the laptop, I do put a link in the description. Also for the 15-inch model, and I'll include a link to Bob of All Trades video on the 15-inch model so you can watch that. And I'd like to thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.